What's going on, Packers fans? Aaron Nagler here, joined by a very special guest. It's Malcom from Big Mac Breakdowns. Malcom, good to see you again, man.
Good to see you too, and I'm glad to be back.
It's so good to be talking football, talking rookies. It's been a while, but I figured this group, this rookie class, seems pretty damn special, and I wanted to talk to you for anyone who's out there who's not familiar with Malcolm's work. Make sure you check out his channel. I've got a link in the description of this video. He does great breakdowns, really kind of deep dive stuff. Today, we're going to be a little bit more 30,000 feet, but I did want to kind of touch on most of the rookie class, starting with Matthew Golden. A lot of excitement here, man. I know the idea of taking a wide receiver in general was very exciting for Packers fans, but the fact that they got someone this dynamic is really exciting. What do you see when you turn on the tape?
Well, yeah, I just want to first off by saying I was surprised as anyone. I was actually at work when they called the pick out, and I jumped up in excitement because I just couldn't believe it. It was one of those things that just had to happen for me to believe it. But
right, yes.
When I turn on the tape, I mean, you could really go either way with basically how the Packers' philosophy is usually with the draft process, especially in the first round, drafting a guy with the athletic upside and things of that nature. So Matthew Golden has that. Ran a 4.29 at the combine, and this shows on tape, but in different facets. But I also see a natural receiver, like a natural hands catcher, a fluid route runner, a guy that goes and attacks the catch point, and a competitor. There's some areas to work on, of course, like any rookie, but I see a guy that can come in and literally impact this receiving corps day one for the Packers.
About that, we've noticed certainly over the two practices that have been open to the media, especially yesterday there on June 3rd, he was getting quite a bit of kind of not just time on the grass, but run with the ones, getting targets from Jordan Love, catching a bunch of balls. Do you think it's a case of we are going to have a package come hell or high water to get him on the field? Is there a way that you think that the offense can operate where, okay, yeah, no, he's probably, like you said, got stuff to work on, but the upside is too tantalizing to keep him on the bench for any length of time?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they, force fed him throughout the duration of training camp and things like that. Because not only do I think he can have his own impact, get his own looks, get separation on his own without being having the need to be schemed open. I think he could help other guys because he's able to attack deep pretty well and open up some things underneath for guys like Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks that might work across the middle for Jordan Love, which Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur, they want to continue to attack the middle of the field to make everything wider on the outside. So he can not only, make looks for himself, but he can also help other guys get involved based on what he brings to the game, just off his natural ability.
You mentioned some of the things that he might or does need to work on. One of the things I noticed going back, and I didn't watch any of his Houston tape prior to his being drafted. I had read about it, but I hadn't really looked at it. You can see a pretty raw talent, right? Like all the tools are there. There's no doubt about it. And even when he gets to Texas, like he makes that run at the end of his final year at school, but you could still see some of that rawness early in the season. Where do you think he needs to kind of make the biggest jump, so to speak? Because it's like you said, he's got natural hands. I'm not worried about that. He's got speed for days. That's there. But there's certainly plenty of aspects to his game where you're like, okay, well, this is something they're going to need to work on and probably focus on.
Well, usually when you're talking about a Packers first round rookie, you're talking about development. Like he needs to develop. I think in Matthew Golden's case, it's more about refinement, refining his tools, sharpening the tools that he has. Because rarely do you, I wouldn't say rarely, but I would say maybe since Jair, let's say, you've seen a Packer rookie with what he did in college, showing glimpses of what they're doing at the next level already. So when I see Matthew Golden, his release package, his nuance with his route running skills, it's almost like he is ready to be an NFL receiver. So I think just coming in and refining the things that he already has, he has the athleticism to be an NFL wide receiver. I would say, if anything, being tougher at the catch point, because I mean, he was a good contested catcher, and that's the thing. Like he did a hefty amount of things that you look for in an NFL receiver. It's just can he continue to elevate that to the next level? And I think that just comes in, of course, getting stronger, getting mentally stronger, being able to take those NFL in that NFL competition, but really just
That's the
refining
key,
the
right?
tool. Yeah, and I think he's just gonna have to refine his tools that he already has, the
To
release
your
package, handling bump and run. Like he faced press.
right. Yeah.
Press is like, lining up within 1 or 2 yards, but bump and run, which you got a corner that might take a chance and two-hand jam you. That's something that I would like to see him face a little bit more coming up to the next level. If I say he had to work on anything, and then of course, like just being stronger at the catch point, which he has some ability to do already because he had over 15 contested catches this past season at Texas. So he could catch the back shoulder. He can adjust to catches thrown behind him, thrown low. It's like, okay, just continue to get those looks. That way, the game itself starts to slow down for him on the next level.
I think that's the real big key you're talking about there as far as the catch point and doing it consistently in the NFL is going to be a very different
Yeah,
animal than doing it in
yeah,
college, right? Like
and
the level of competition, the guys are attacking the ball along with you. It's a whole
yeah,
nother world. They're way
hmm
more physical and aggressive. They're going to be more physical and aggressive than
yeah,
whatever you faced when you were at Texas.
yeah. And like I said, he has some nuances about his game. He goes up at the highest point and go
Right.
get it. He's gonna be competitive and he's gonna come in with that chip on his shoulder. And that's what the mentality he's bringing to the game. Like, yeah, I had a little bit of success, but there's still room to grow. Even I feel like, based off what I've seen from him and his interviews, he's ready to come in and get that work.
Totally agree. And then you go down to the next selection in the second round. We got Anthony Belton, the monster of a man who,
Yeah.
is already running a bit at tackle, and that's what he played in college. But I
Mhm.
suspect there's a decent chance they end up kicking him inside at some point. What do you see when you turn on this tape? Because man, this is a guy who I just love to watch throwing people out the club.
Yeah. So what's funny, I remember, I know it was a while ago, but back to one of our last talks
Hmm.
that we talked about Kadeem Telford and how
Yep.
big he was, and the Packers trying him at guard, even though he was about 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", around that.
Hmm.
So when I seen Anthony Belton get selected by the Packers, immediately I thought guard, and then you know watching his tape, he's looking to bury guys. Like I don't like, I love the mentality that the Packers brought to this offseason with just
Hmm.
trying, and I think with drafting a guy like Anthony Belton, they're looking to, be the guys that's administering the punishment instead of taking it, playing ahead of the sticks, ahead of the line of scrimmage and
Hmm.
controlling the trenches. And I think that when you bring in a guy like Anthony Belton, 6'6", 330, 340, of course, I feel like he might need to chisel out a little bit, but all in all, I think that he brings that drive that can, I would say, improve, this. And of course, in the future, I think he's going to split snaps with Sean Ryan, but at right guard, which
Hmm.
I think that's probably his best projection.
I think
But
it's the clearest path to the field this year. Like if
this
there's an
year, at the
opportunity,
very
that's
least,
probably it. Yeah.
yeah, and I think out at tackle, he might just lack a little bit of, I would say, polish. Like I think the feet, they happy feet, but they're a little slow
Mm.
when it comes to getting depth in his kick slide. He could get beat around the edge by speed rushers and can even lose leverage when it's time to drop his anchor. So I think he being able to slide inside, being able to stop some of that momentum a little bit quicker from pass rushers, or and then on top of that in the run game, being able to just lean into defensive linemen a little bit easier, because I think he lunges a lot, but again, like when you get guys with his type of tools that he has and traits that he has, you're not worried about what he did. You're gonna be projecting what he's
Yes.
gonna do.
Thank you.
And
100%.
I think with the Packers, their history of offensive linemen, it's like I have no
Right.
worry in my mind that this guy can come in maybe towards the end of year one, but for sure going into year two if we decide not to bring back Sean Ryan, because he might have a season going into his contract year, but I think that if I think you have a guy that can come in, potentially be a plug and play player just in case somebody goes down, so I think the Packers might have got them one, and I think they drafted a player that where they're trying to approach with a different mentality that they had in the recent past. A guy that can just, move people and open up
People
run
mover,
lanes for,
yes.
yeah, and a guy that can open lanes because he's looking to bury guys. Like, he plays with that mean mentality, and that's something refreshing to see in Green Bay.
I love it. And you make a good point there as far as a plug and play. Like, how unusual was it in last year? The guys were pretty much on the grass the entire season, like along the offensive line. That
Yeah,
doesn't happen. That is way kind of on the rare end of the spectrum. You
yeah,
almost always have stretches where, okay, your guard is missing some weeks or your tackle misses a
hmm,
few games, and like you've got to be ready for that. And the Packers have lots of versatility and they can move guys around, but having bodies to throw in there, just even if you go back and look at the playoff game, I mean, you saw how
yeah,
everything just fell apart once Elton Jenkins got hurt.
yeah,
I think this is it's promising. You're excited about it. Like you said, there's obviously lots of polishing to do, but
hmm,
it does seem to point to a new direction as far as his just how big he is and strong he is, and how many times have we seen like a third or a fourth and short, and they've tried to run
yeah,
power, they've tried to run something through the A gap, and like they don't control the line of scrimmage or they haven't, because they've been a lot more athletic than they have been like
right,
road grading people movers. I'm in on this idea. I love
yeah,
that direction, and the idea that we're going to actually own and actually move the line of scrimmage for a change.
right,
I'm down with that
and
idea.
I think that may be result into drafting tackles and putting them at guard.
Guard, yeah.
So they are a little bit lighter in the pants, but you get a guy, yeah, he is a tackle, but he projects better at
So,
guard. He actually
but he's a
projects better
monster.
at guard.
Right,
And
right.
then I think it's a change. I think there's going to be a change in philosophy in terms of what Matt LaFleur. Usually we seen a lot of wide zone in the Aaron Jones era, and of course Mike McCarthy ran a lot of wide
Mm-hmm.
zone. But I'm starting to see a lot more inside zone, gap schemes. So I think Matt LaFleur is like, no, we need to get downhill,
Yep.
a lot more. And then that's going to open up the outside when it's time to get there. And like I said, Anthony Belton, though, like I said, he could work on his footwork. I still think he has the athleticism. He's shown that he can get out in space. But I think, of course, refining some of his body mass and stuff like that can help him be more mobile and, again, be even more of a plug and play player for this offensive line.
Love it. And then we get to my favorite pick, simply because it was one of my draft crushes. And the fact that the Packers took him is pretty incredible because it rarely happens. But we got Seavon Williams out of TCU. Man, I love this kid. I love his game. I love the potential and the possibility here. And I've seen a lot of talk about, he's a gadget guy and they're going to use him like Cordell
Yeah,
Patterson and all this stuff. And look, I understand that, but I see the potential for a classic Packers wide receiver, a big guy who can work over the middle, give you tons of yak. Is he a speed merchant? No, but he is incredible with the ball in his hand. And I think because of his build, the way he can work against defensive backs, man, everything about this pick, I absolutely love it. I love the potential here.
yeah, I love the potential, and I think there's two ways you can look at it. I don't think he's purely a gadget guy by any means. I think this guy, if all works out, could be a true X for this
Yes.
Packers team, can be a red zone threat. And I know it's been a lot of I've been seeing a lot of banter about the goal line fade being the most inefficient play, but
it
I feel like it's a football play, and if you can have a
is.
guy
It
that
is.
can do it, you
Right.
have more
They are very
football
rare.
savvy
They are
plays.
very rare. But
You
yes,
know,
if you can find
if
a guy who makes it
if
an
you can
efficient
find
play,
or
why not?
can
Right?
win high point balls, because
Yep.
there's going to be times where Jordan Love needs to be bailed out, and or in the red zone you need a big target
Yeah.
on the boundary. And if Seavon Williams can't hone in on that wide receiver crab, he had some drops and stuff, but he did
Mm-hmm.
show the ability to high point the ball and go get it. And no DB was able to go up there with him. So if you could have a guy that can play over the top, and I mean over the top of defenders,
Mm-hmm.
you're adding more football savviness. Truth, like we get into schematics a lot, but what about the guys that can just make a play?
Right.
And I think that's what Seavon Williams, again, if all things work out. he could bring to this team. And I think on the other side, the gadget part of it, he took some direct snaps and some handoffs at
I mean, he scored
TCU.
5 touchdowns last year out of the
Exactly,
backfield as a
out of the
runner.
backfield. And I didn't get a lot of flack for this. I don't think a lot of people seen it, but it was more of I should say a proposal or an idea rather than something I thought the Packers would literally do. And you seen a guy like Malik Willis come in when Jordan Love was out, and with his legs, he made the game 11 on 11,
Yes,
11 on
you got to
11.
you got to account for him. Yep.
And I think this is just a proposal that when you get down in these short distance to go situations, or you
Right.
go in the goal to go, and you on the 1 yard line, you could bring in a guy that can make the game 11 on 11, because when you get down within the 10, within the 5, it starts to get tighter and tighter, and the defense just like, okay, pretty much it's 11 on 10. But really, when you got a guy that can be a threat with the ball in his hands with the direct snap, you make the game 11 on 11. Not to mention, you could play jet sweeps off of him. You could play handoffs off of him. I don't expect him to drop back in no passes or anything.
Though he has done that.
Yeah, I was about to say. And then on top of that, he's wearing the red jersey. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's been working with Sean Mannion. Granted, I haven't seen any clips or anything.
No,
neither
have I, but that's a really good point.
But I mean, he has to be wearing it for a reason. Like, but if he's like Sean Mannion, like, we might need you to come in, do a couple trick plays, I would not be surprised at that at all. I would love to see that and get back to some schoolyard football, being able to just play the game, smash mouth, and get guys or make defenses adjust to what we're doing, be unpredictable. I think that'll add another element to this offense. That's just my proposal, though.
I absolutely love it.
Absolutely love it. I think that's a way he could benefit us as a gadget player, But I think he's more. I definitely think he's more than that.
I think you've cracked the code on the red jersey. I'm going to ask someone to ask someone. That's pretty good.
Get an insider on it. Get an insider.
I need to know. That's great. Then in the 4th round, we got Baron Sorell, again, out of Texas. Man, obviously the draft day stuff was amazing. The fact that he was there. But man, you turn on the tape and this is not somebody who I think is a project and is going to take a long time to kind of see the field. I think he's going to be in the rotation right from the jump.
Yeah, I can see it, and I can see that because I think he has some natural ability to play the position. Of course, there's some development areas, but as far as pass rushing go, I think that's where he'll be able to impact the most starting off. Because he has like a long arm swipe that he does. Like he gets the long arm into the one arm or two arms into the deep or to the O lineman's chest, and then he's swiping with the other hand, getting hands off of him and getting to the quarterback. A very energetic pass rusher, has a motor on him. So, and the Packers love the guys like that, Lucas Van Ness, Rashawn Gary, guys that just keep going and keep going, even if they stop at the initial point of attack. So I think Baron Sorell fits that mold, but I think he has a lot of untapped potential as well. It's like I just want to see it all together. I think I'm kind of like at that point, because you will see Red Pill win, but then you'll see another Red where it's like, oh, he might have got held up, but like it's like he could have won. If he did what, like, it's kind of like the continuity of his game, the consistency that needs to come along, and again, just continue to develop. But I do think he can be in this rotation day one, just based off what he can offer with his athleticism, and again, some of the pass rush upside that he already has.
And speaking of pass rush upside, that's the next guy in Colin Oliver. Man, I don't know about. I am somewhat mystified about this pick, because it kind of seems to go against the thing Brian was talking about at the combine, where he talked about undersized pass rushers and how, okay, it's great that he can get after the quarterback on 3rd down, pin his ears back, because that's certainly what this guy is able to do, especially like what you would think right out of the gate. But man, there's no way they're throwing him out there on early downs. He's going to get run over, right? So he becomes a pretty specialized player. And I get it. Look, it's a 5th round pick, right? Like, I'm not saying like they've burned a pick or anything, but man, he's got to be productive in a very specific way for them to justify even basically dressing him on Sundays. because I don't think he's going to contribute on special teams. Maybe he does, but man, I don't know. This pick, I'm not going to say it was a total head scratcher, but I was very surprised by this selection.
Yeah, he's definitely different from the Packers mode of the past. Now, granted, they did bring in a guy like Aaron Mosby this past season. Is a little bit bigger than Oliver, but kind of along the lines of the same similar heights. Not I know Mosby is a little bit bigger, but sort of like the same approach to the game, a speed guy, and we're not used to having really speed guys.
No, at all.
But I think the name of the game in the NFL is pressure, and I think that's what Oliver can bring if everything works out with him. He can definitely threaten the edge. And you look at guys for other teams like a Nolan Smith in Philly, or Nick Bonitto out in Denver, guys that can just win with their speed and they could get to the quarterback fast. And I'm interested to see what Jeff Hafley does with him. Maybe when he brings down that double mug and how he's that double mug alignment and how he does stunts or dropping him in the coverage and stuff like that. I think Oliver can bring that to this D line potentially day one, just like Sorell. I think both of these guys bring a little bit of their own flavor. Sorell a bit more complete as a defensive lineman in terms of being able to play every down. But I think Oliver could also bring a different dimension to this Packers defensive line based off his speed and being able to bend and flatten the edge. If he could just polish up his pass rush plan, I think this is a guy that could be, so again, bring a different element, being able to win fast. And we want guys to win fast because, the time to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands is getting lower and lower. So guys are looking to just get the ball out their hands. So you need guys that can win fast and bring pressure. And I think that he fits the mold as far as like being able to flatten the edge, get to the quarterback fast, being able to get on stunts and navigate stunts, being able to drop back into coverage, which I know Jeff Hafley likes to drop his D lineman in the coverage. So he might not be an every down player, but he definitely impacts this Packer defense, if all things work out and fits the mold. I think what Jeff Hafley wants in the pass rusher.
And then we got Warren Brinson, the defensive lineman out of Georgia. Man, I love listening to this kid talk. This is another selection where I turn on the tape and I see a guy who maybe isn't what we've at least heard them talk about as far as what they're looking for from their defensive line. Like they talk a lot about, okay, quick step off the ball, instant pressure, creating havoc. I mean, I think he can do that. I don't see a ton of that, though. I see a guy who can two gap. I see a guy who's really good at controlling gaps, but that isn't or hasn't been what they've wanted these guys to do. Like you said earlier, though, don't tell me what he can't do. Tell me what he can do. I think he can do it. I just haven't seen him asked to do a ton of it in college.
Excuse me. It wasn't asked to be the pass rusher, maybe like a Jalen Carter or some of those other guys that came through the trenches of Georgia or the Georgia Bulldogs, but he can definitely two gap. And I think being able to hold up the integrity of this run game, you need a guy like that, especially with, I know Kenny Clark still has it, but is climbing up there in age, still wanting guys like Devontae Wyatt to flourish. But once you get past that, you got smaller guys like Kobe Wooden and Carl Brooks, though they are guys that can contribute and have, shown some flashes and being able to make plays. You still want to make sure you got some guys coming through the pipeline that can uphold the integrity of that run defense. And be it that, like, I think he was that guy that can hold the point of attack pretty well, can disengage on blocks and make a play on the runner. That's something that, you want to see in guys and think that if this is his floor, this is what we can minimally get from him. Like, I think you find a hit in a prospect, especially in the 6th round, because the recent history of the Packers defense is not being able to stop the run. And I think that I would say that is my expectations. Not saying that my expectations are low. I do think he can get some push and has some handwork, has some decent handwork as far as working as a pass rusher. But as far as like what I think he's going to be utilized to do early on, as far as what the Packers would expect them is just to being able to hold the point of attack, let guys like make lanes or hold guys up for guys like Adrian Cooper and Isaiah McDuffie on the backside, on the back end, and let those guys come and make plays. Because I think I think Adrian Cooper is up for a big year. I wish I had the chance
Yes,
to talk about
sir.
him, but but again, like if you could have a guy that opens up opportunities for other guys, and I think the Packers are coming along and getting guys that I think can work well within this defense.
And you talk about expectations. Look, you
Yeah,
drafted him in the 6th round. You're not
yeah,
you're not expecting a 3-down player right out of the gate,
no,
right? Like
yeah,
like you
yeah,
said, I'll come in, plug him in the run defense, let him work on early downs. You lost TJ Slayton, right?
yeah.
You got to be ready for life after Kenny, etc. So I think that makes a world of sense. Um, I know we've got a couple other guys, but we're gonna wrap it up here. I know people, if you want more info, if you want great player breakdowns, make sure you're checking out Big Mac Breakdowns. Malcom, I can't thank you enough for the time, man. We'll be talking a lot this season.
I appreciate you, Aaron. It's always a pleasure, and please go subscribe to my channel.
Do it.